Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Glorious Shri Prabhupada. Welcome to Voice to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be continuing with chapter 12, canto 1, verse 23, and the chapter is entitled The Birth of Emperor Parikshit. It is really an amazing chapter, at least for me, because there's beautiful instructions, predictions of foresight given by the Brahmanas to Maharaj Yudhisthira on the person that Emperor Parikshit will be. So Very, very nice verses. So we'll start with the opening prayers. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parigvacharya Stotra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parigvacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kundu Radha Kundu Girit Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Sri Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Trita Swami Namani. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prapada Shridadmani Shri Guru Karana Shakti Bhakti Trita Namani. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I will chant the verse 3 times, and I request devotees to please chant after me. Pitamaha samasamye prashade girishopama ashraya sarvabhutanam yata devoramashraya. Pitamaha samasamye prashade girishopama ashraya sarvabhutanam yata devoramashraya. Pitamaha samasamye prashade girishopama ashraya sarvabhutanam yata devoramashraya. Devotees can chant, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pitamaha samahasame prashade girishopamaha ashrayah sarvabhutanam yatha devo rama ashraya.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Xavier, go ahead.
Pitamaha samasamye prasade girishopama ashraya sarvabhutanam yata devo ramashraya.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to try? Okay, we'll go for the word-for-word translation. Pitamaha, the grandfather of Brahma. Sama, equally good. Samye, in the matter. Prasade, in charity or in munificence. Girisha, Lord Shiva. Upama, comparison of equilibrium. Ashraya, resort. Sarva, all. Bhutanam, of the living beings. Yata, S. Deva, the Supreme Lord. Rama Ashraya, the personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada's translation in purport. This child will be like his grandfather, Yudhisthira, of Brahma. In equanimity of mind, he will be munificent like the Lord of the Kailash hill, Shiva. And he will be the resort of everyone like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is even the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Mental equanimity refers both to Maharaj Yudhisthira and to Brahma, the grandfather of all living beings. According to Sridhar Swami, the grandfather referred to is Brahma. But according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, the grandfather is Maharaj Yudhisthira himself. But in both cases, the comparison is equally good because both of them are recognized representatives of the Supreme Lord. And thus both of them have to maintain mental equanimity, being engaged in welfare work for the living being. Any responsible executive agent at the top of administration has to tolerate different types of onslaughts from the very persons for whom he works. Brahmaji was criticized even by the gopis, the highest perfectional devotees of the Lord. The gopis were dissatisfied with the work of Brahmaji because Lord Brahma, as creator of this particular universe, created eyelids which obstructed their seeing Lord Krishna. They could not tolerate a moment's blinking of the eyes, for it kept them from seeing their beloved Lord Krishna. So what to speak of others who are naturally very critical of every action of a responsible man? Similarly, Maharaj Yudhisthira had to cross over many difficult situations created by his enemies, and he proved to be the most perfect maintainer of mental equanimity in all critical circumstances. Therefore, the example of both grandfathers for maintaining equanimity of mind is quite fitting. Lord Shiva is a celebrated demigod who awards gifts to beggars. His name is therefore Ashutosh, or one who is pleased very easily. He is also called the Bhutanath, or the Lord of the common folk, who are mainly attached to him because of his munificent gifts, even without consideration of the after effects. Ravan was very attached to Lord Shiva, and by easily pleasing him, Ravan became so powerful that he wanted to challenge the authority of Lord Ram. Of course, Ravan was never helped by Lord Shiva when he fought with them. When he fought with Rama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord of Lords, Shiva. To Vrikashura, Lord Shiva awarded a benediction which was not only awkward, but also disturbing. Vrikashura became empowered by the grace of Lord Shiva to vanish anyone's head simply by touching it. Although this was awarded by Lord Shiva, the cunning fellow wanted to make an experiment of the power by touching the head of Lord Shiva. Thus, the Lord had to take shelter of Vishnu to save himself from trouble. And the Lord and Vishnu, by his illusionary potency, asked Vrikashura to make an experiment to touch his own head. The fellow did it. I like when Prabhupada says the fellow did it. You can just imagine Prabhupada saying it, and it just brings the laughter and smile to your face. The fellow did it, and he was finished himself. And so the Lord was saved from all sorts of trouble by such a cunning beggar of the demigods. The excellent point is that Lord Shiva never denies anyone any sort of gift. He is therefore the most generous, although sometimes some kind of mistake is made. Rama means the goddess of fortune, and her shelter is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the maintainer of all living beings. There are innumerable living beings, not only on the surface of this planet, but also in all other hundreds of thousands of planets. All of them are provided with all necessities of life for the progressive march towards the end of self-realization. But on the path of sense gratification, they are put into difficulty by the agency of Maya. The illusory energy and so travel the path of a false plan of economic development. Such economic development is never successful because it is illusory. These men are always after the mercy of the illusory goddess of fortune, but they do not know that the goddess of fortune can live only under the protection of Vishnu. Without Vishnu, the goddess of fortune is an illusion. We should therefore seek the protection of Vishnu instead of directly seeking the protection of the goddess of fortune. Only Vishnu and the devotees of Vishnu can give protection to all. And because Maharaj Parikshit was himself protected by Vishnu, it was quite possible for him to give complete protection to all who wanted to live under his rule. Om Maganiyati Mirandiyasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the translation again. This child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthir of Brahma, in equanimity of mind. He will be munificent like the Lord of the Kailash hill, Shiva, and he will be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is even the shelter of the goddess of fortune. So here the Brahmanas are informing Maharaj Yudhishthir the glories of the person that Maharaj Parikshit will be. We've covered a couple of verses talking about Maharaj Parikshit. Beautiful, beautiful verses. And every verse that the Brahmanas are addressing the kind of leader that Maharaj Parikshit would be, one might say, okay, the purpose is glorification of the king or the leader that Maharaj Parikshit will be, but I'm not a leader. Why should I develop all these wonderful qualities? because these qualities are part and parcel of the Vaishnava qualities. It's none different. Because in our own way, we are all servant leaders in some small way. And even if we are not a leader, we are trying to be practicing devotees. So it's very important that we really take to heart these instructions that are given to us by Srila Prabhupada, because these are the qualities that a practicing devotee in Krishna consciousness should try to develop in the mood of humility. So these are very, very important points. So the first point that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here is mental equanimity. It's a very big word for me, at least, equanimity. So what does this mental equanimity actually means? Equanimity, the definition of equanimity is the state of psychological stability and composure, which is undisturbed by experience of or exposure to emotions, pain, or other phenomena that may cause others to lose the balance of their mind. So in short, to be equipoised. And we have heard in one of the verses of Bhagavad Gita, right, where Srila Prabhupada says, in happiness, I'm paraphrasing it, in happiness and distress, we are to be equipoised. Equipoised, another word is equilibrium, Neither are we affected by happiness, neither are we affected by distress. It's very easily said than done, can completely, relate to that, because only the pure devotees of the Lord can actually have the mood of equanimity in mind. They really understand the science of Krishna consciousness so well that they're able to balance it so beautifully without being disturbed. And here, Srila Prabhupada is reminding us that Maharaj Yudhisthira was a pure devotee of the Lord. If you remember in our earlier chapters in this canto, was a pure devotee of the Lord, that nothing bothered him. In fact, Yudhisthira was not even attached to the kingdom. He wanted to give it up. He had no attachment to wealth, money, opulence, palaces, fine clothing, riches. He had no attachment. If left to him, he would have given it up, and he would have said, you know what, I'm going to go to the forest. I'm just going to meditate on the Lord. But it's because of the instructions by the Lord that he accepted the position of being a king. Because Lord Krishna does things with many, many, many reasons. One of the reasons is the Lord would like to set an example to mankind that one can be a leader and a devotee of the Lord and still be equipoised and not be attached to riches and wealth and fame and gain. Maharaj Yudhisthira was an excellent example of that. So here Srila Prabhupada is teaching us how Maharaj Yudhisthira was so equipoised that the sages are saying that even the grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, the baby Parikshit, will be just as equipoised as Maharaj Yudhisthira. He will be able to maintain mental equanimity where he's not being disturbed by any pain, emotions, trouble, trials, tribulation, disturbances, nothing. He's going to be very clear in mind. He's going to be very sound in mind, and is going to manage the kingdom very calmly. We don't see that in today's times. Some of us, when we watch the news, we watch many leaders coming on the news and giving their speech or press conference or whatever you would call it. And especially when it's a heated moment, you can see their emotions and their pain and their disturbance and how they get so much affected by it. Sometimes we see a tinge of anger, tinge of frustration, right? But here, Maharaj Yudhishthira did not show any of that. He was very equipoised. So here Srila Prabhupada is teaching us that representatives of the Supreme Lord must maintain mental equanimity. Now, can it be done overnight? No. It takes a lot of chanting of the holy name, because the chanting of the holy name is going to clean our hearts and our minds to come to that level. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no timeline. Krishna consciousness is not like a textbook where we go to school, we finish first grade in 1 year, second grade in 1 year, or when you go to college, we finish one subject in one semester. No, Krishna consciousness is a repeated, ongoing process. It is meant to clean us up over and over and over again. It doesn't stop. And the holy name is the medicine. The holy name is the medicine to help us clean our hearts, clean our minds, clean our attachments, our anarthas, our enemies. Clean it up so that we can come to the level of mental equanimity. And it's very important for devotees to actually work on developing that, because when we make harsh decisions, depending on the situation, sometimes it can be wrong because our mind is not equipoised. Our mind is not clear. There are too many emotions. See, emotions don't have don't have brains. Emotions don't have brains. It's the mind, it's the intelligence that has the brains, not the emotions. So that's why it's very important as representatives of the Supreme Lord, as practicing devotees, that when we have to make any decision, when we have to really make sure that we are taking a decision that's going to affect not just us, but others around us, that we have to take time, as they say, sleep over it for a night. Next morning, meditate, think about it, be clear in the mind, probably talk to someone else, to another, confidant, or with another senior devotee, the spiritual master, someone that we can reveal our minds in confidence and talk it out and have that person guide us. Have that person guide us and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. My emotions are coming in the way and I'm not clear in my mind. Help me to have a very clear mind. Very important, because when harsh decisions are made with emotions, most of the time we mess it up. We mess it up. There will be some situations where we have to act right away, life and death situation. Definitely. It's not like every situation we're going to be equipoised. There will be some. But there were also many situations where we have to really take a moment to be silent, take a deep breath, inhale, exhale, and just, think with a clear mind. And the more we practice that, actually, the more we practice that, the more it will help us to get to the stage of mental equanimity. But it takes practice. Everything in life takes practice, everything in life. Even, as a simple thing as cooking. If we want to perfect a certain dish, a certain recipe, we have to practice it over and over and over again until it comes out the way it should be, right? We don't just wing it the first time. That there are experts. The first time they do it and whoa, it's like a hit. Some of us who are amateurs, we have to practice and practice and practice until it comes out the way it should be. Like, I remember when I was a kid, when, here in my country, in Singapore, we have a class called handwriting class. I don't think it's common in this country. I don't know, I may be wrong. But we have something called handwriting class. And once a week, I think, or twice a week, the classes, we had to practice handwriting. And it was cursive handwriting, because in Singapore, they were very, very, what's the word? Cursive handwriting was a thing when I was growing up. So we had to practice cursive handwriting, not script. I think I learned, honestly speaking, I learned script handwriting when I came to America. In Singapore and Malaysia, I only wrote cursive. I never wrote script. That was how we were trained. But we had to practice. And every time we practice, we had to hand in the homework to our teacher and she'll see, okay, there's a mistake here. Go and practice again. So same thing. In order to develop mental equanimity, we have to practice. Take time and develop that understanding. Another point that Srila Prabhupada made here is munificent. Munificent actually means generosity, giving, very charitable, very giving. And here Srila Prabhupada refers to Lord Shiva, and we know that Lord Shiva is very, very, very generous. So generous that I think people take advantage of him. He can't say no. He has a heart of butter, like he just can't say no. He's so, so, so generous, right? That people will go up to him and ask him, and he goes, okay, tatastu, right? In fact, there was a comment, I don't know who said that, but what was coming to my mind is that, all the boons and the charities and the blessings that Lord Shiva gives, and like what Srila Prabhupada says at the end, that he's most generous, that sometimes he can make a mistake, that Lord Krishna has to even out, balance it out. And there was a comment made by one speaker where he said that Lord Shiva gives boons because he's so generous that at the end, it creates clashes. So Lord Krishna has to balance it out to not have it create a clash. So at the end of the day, Lord Krishna has to do the work to balance it out. So here, Srila Prabhupada is sharing with us that baby Parikshit, when he grows up, he's going to be very, very generous like Lord Shiva. Very, very generous. But we have to be very careful, like what Srila Prabhupada in the last sentence of this second paragraph. Sometimes generosity can also be a mistake. Well, why do you think Srila Prabhupada said that? See, generosity is very healthy. Giving is very healthy. Giving in charity is very good because it's helping mankind. But we should take into consideration the after effects of generosity. The after effects of generosity. Now we know that there are three kinds of charities. Charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of ignorance, and charity in the mode of passion. If we were to give charity in the mode of passion and ignorance, it is a mistake. It's going to be dangerous. in the mode of goodness is the safest, because we know that it's going for a good cause to benefit mankind, right? To benefit mankind. But the highest of the three charities is a charity in preaching, in Krishna consciousness. Because why? We are bringing devotees to the level of helping them to come to the level of self-realization. That is the best charity one can give anyone. And so nicely, Lord Chaitanya gave us the most magnificent, munificent gift, and that is the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This charitable gift is such a beautiful gift that if we just give it without consideration, this gift of the holy name is the safest gift, that if we give it without even thinking, there's no mistake, because we are giving them the holy name of the Lord to help them come to the level of self-realization. And as practicing devotees in the path of bhakti yoga, that is our utmost service to mankind, is to give the holy name in charity. Share it willingly. Go down the streets of Harinam. Go down the streets and do Harinam Sankirtan. Give out a book. Share the mercy. Beautiful way of being, of developing the mode of generosity. Just share it. And the last point that Srila Prabhupada mentions here is ashrayama, resort for everyone. And the Brahmanas are saying that baby Parikshit, when he becomes a leader, he's going to be the resort for everyone, just like Rama, which is the goddess of fortune. Who was the goddess of fortune? Was the shelter of Lord Vishnu. So Maharaj Parikshit will be a leader who will give shelter to maintain all the living beings. But there's a very, very key point here that Srila Prabhupada made in this last paragraph. If we see the sentence here, all of them will be provided with all necessities of life for the progressive march towards the end of self-realization. So, Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee of the Lord. We all know that. Wonderful, excellent devotee of the Lord. I mean, he was a grandson of Maharaj Yudhisthira, that whole lineage, right? Maharaj Parikshit was such a resort for his people in his kingdom that he made sure that the people in his kingdom were marching towards this level of self-realization. Do we have such leaders today? If you look in the material world, we don't have leaders who actually will take us to the path of self-realization. We don't. At least not definitely not in the material world. They will take us to the path of sense gratification. Today's age, sadly, we have leaders who take us towards the path of sense gratification and to get deeper, 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 deeper into Maya. And the deeper we go, the difficult it's going to be to come out of it. Whereas Maharaj Parikshit was such an excellent leader, like his grandfather, Maharaj Yudhisthira, that he made sure that the citizens of his kingdom were marching towards self-realization. That is the goal of life. So his people were taking shelter of Maharaj Parikshit. who is going to be the maintainer of the living beings in his kingdom, so that he can take them and guide them to take shelter of Krishna. Even here, the example, even Prabhupada is saying, even Rama, the goddess of fortune, take shelter of Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Who are we? So here, so beautifully, Sri Prabhupada is reminding us that without Lord Vishnu, if the goddess of fortune is an illusion, so he said we should seek the protection of the Lord. We should seek the protection and take shelter of the Lord, because only Krishna and the devotees of Krishna, very nicely Sri Prabhupada said, only Vishnu and the devotees of Vishnu can give protection to all. So we should even take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Not take shelter of Google.com, not take shelter of Pinterest, not take shelter of whatever we have on the web, out in this World Wide Web. Take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Very important. So here Sri Prabhupada is reminding us how important it is to take shelter of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. And the Lord's devotees. And if we remember, one of the 6 loving exchanges by Sri Prabhupada by Srila Rupa Goswami was to reveal one's mind in confidence. That is taking shelter of a devotee of the Lord. To reveal one's mind in confidence and to inquire about the science of self-realization. That is taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. So we have to ask ourselves, I really, really want to grow. I really, really want to get over this hurdle and come closer to the Lord. I need to take shelter of the devotees of the Lord and seek out. We should remove the wall of, oh, but what if they think that? What if they think that? See, the more we think of, oh, what if they think that? What if they think that? Who is suffering? We are suffering, not the others. Because the longer we say or we tell ourselves, oh, but if I ask that devotee, they're going to judge me. If I ask this devotee, they're going to think weird about me. If I take shelter of that devotee, they're going to think, oh, I'm so stupid. Or if I ask that devotee, they're going to laugh at me. That is all our mind giving us a million excuses to not want to seek shelter and to not want to grow. And the more we have the mind telling us, oh, if you ask that person, she's going to laugh at you. If you ask this person, they're going to think you're crazy. If you ask that person, they're going to think you know nothing. If you ask this person, they're going to think, oh my God, you don't know that? You've been doing it for 10, 15 years. The mind is giving us all these excuses, right? And the more we think like that, who is the person who's suffering the most at the end of the day? It's me, not the devotees, because I have put a block to the opportunity for growth. I have put the block for the opportunity to grow. Who suffers? I suffer, while others are growing. That is a very important point that Sri Prabhupada is teaching us here, to take shelter of the Lord and his devotees. They will protect us, they will guide us. They will teach us, they will show us, they will correct us, and they will help us. Just as Maharaj Parikshit was protected by Lord Vishnu, and he gave shelter. He didn't say, oh, you are a Mlecha, I'm not giving you shelter. You are a Chandala, I'm not giving you shelter. You are a Brahmana, okay, I'll give you a shelter. He never said that. He was very, very unconditional, and he was equal. He was not selective. in any way. He was equal across the board. So here, Prabhupada is teaching us the importance of actually understanding how much we have to take shelter of the Lord and his devotees. And we can take shelter of the holy name. Because as we've been hearing it over and over again, the holy name is none different from Krishna, the person, Krishna, the deity, Krishna, the devotional service, Krishna, the Bhagavatam. We are none different. Taking shelter of the holy name is so amazing. And the more we take shelter of the holy name and we cry to the Lord, I need help, please send me help. I need help, please help me. I want to get out of this dungeon of, this crazy Maya. The Lord will reciprocate. And he will send a devotee our way to help us and to guide us. Amazing, amazing points that your Prabhupada is mentioning here by the Brahmanas, predicting the kind of leader that Maharaj Parikshit will be. But at the same time, the lessons here are so important for us, how we can become a better devotee for the Lord, a better servant to the devotees of the Lord. So these were my realizations, my thoughts, my reflections. Thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit of what Srila Prabhupada is trying to teach us here and how we can apply it in our daily life, in our, Krishna consciousness, in our spiritual growth. So if they're in the translation again, and then we'll open up for questions or discussion. This child will be like his grandfather, Yudhishthir or Brahma, in equanimity of mind. He will be munificent like the Lord of the Kailash hill, Shiva, and he will be the resort of everyone like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is even the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So if there are any questions, any comments, a takeaway would be very, very nice. Reflections or realization, sharing. I would love to hear from all of you. Please do unmute yourself. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, wait, Xavier. Okay, which one of you came on first?
Yeah, I think somebody else, Mataji.
Xavier. Xavier, go ahead, Xavier.
Probably can go first.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Mataji, wonderful, wonderful points. I mean, I think I need to go back and listen to this again. One thing that I was thinking is, even if we are not in any leadership position in the services, at least we are leaders of our own lives. So we can definitely inculcate all those points you mentioned in this class today. And also, one of the very catchy point you spoke about was how emotions, they rule our mind and brain. And that's a very, very important aspect that we all need to be, or at least I'm talking about myself, need to be very aware of, because that impacts all our decision, whether it is a material life or a spiritual life. And more than often, we end up making some kind of inclinations or decisions because of our emotions, which are not conducive or favorable to ourselves in the devotional life, as well as to the sangha we are in, to the congregation also. So I really like that point. So thank you for making us aware of that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, that's a very good point. Actually, that was drilled into my head by my spiritual master, because emotions are sentiments. And my spiritual master would always make this point, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami. He would say, Krishna consciousness is not sentimentalism. It is scientific. Sentimentalism stems from emotions. Emotions don't have brains. It's the science that we can use the intelligence to really figure out, okay, let me not act on emotions, because we all can probably think of definitely one, but there's so many instances where we act on emotions, we act on sentiments, and when we act on that in the name of sentiments, in the name of emotion, in the name of mushy wishy washy, as they call it, we make mistakes. And we make mistakes, and at the end of the day, we're like, oh my God, why did I do that? We make mistakes, and then we fall into the wrong association, we fall into the wrong group, and then it affects our Krishna consciousness. In fact, what it's like a domino effect, then what happens is that it continues to roll, and it affects our devotional life, it affects our family life, the children suffer, the community suffers, everything suffers. It's like a domino effect. So that's why it's very important that we use the intelligence that Srila Prabhupada gave, that Krishna gave us, right? The intelligence has the brain. So we need to take a moment to just breathe and relax and be still and practice silence. And I think that's one thing that sometimes I feel like we need to talk a lot of, just practice silence and go within, as we say in the material world, and just talk it out. I know for me and my husband, when, we've had this car issue. Some of you may know that for the past 2.5 months. And we were on a roller coaster. Get a car, don't get a car, get a car, don't get a car. It took us literally about a month for both of us to really chalk out the pros and the cons of getting another car versus versus whether we can afford to pay for it versus whether we can really maintain it. Like, it took us a month, literally, and a month out of the 2.5 months. And finally, we found that, okay, the old car that I had is still there. Okay, we're going to use that. There's no car payments. It's an old car, but it can survive. We put a new engine until the kids. So it's like that, we got to think and analyze, rather than, okay, the car broke, let's go get another car. That's the emotions. And I remember even during the past 2.5 months, young people, right? Teenagers, they want everything like snap of the finger, snap, 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 snap. And I remember talking to both my girls, breathe, calm down, relax, and sit down, and let's chalk it out, and let's talk about the different scenarios and the pros and the cons, and let's make a proper decision with intelligence. And at the end of the day, after 2.5 months of karma, now everything is quiet. But yes, Dada Krishna, it's so important that we really develop that behavior, that thinking, that emotions don't have brains, sentimentalism don't have brains. It's just going to put us in more trouble. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Xavier, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please my humble voice.
Accept mine. Jai.
Okay, I have 3 points or partial questions. First is talking about, it's kind of, I'm relating it to the mantra retreat, because there's some stuff that's was talked about that's related to this. So there was assignment given to the group to talk about, there's 3 questions talking about frustrating situations. And the first one was, what's the ideal way to deal with a frustrating situation? What would you ideally, how would you like to react? And most of them talked about equanimity and being patient and calm responses. Then the second question asked, what makes it difficult? And then a lot of the answers came to ego. And
oops, Xavier, we lost you. I wanted to hear it so bad. Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Xavier. Xavier?
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
I think it's the connection. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then the third one was like what are some, how can we deal with it? How can we deal with those situations? And frequently it was space, like give yourself time, like don't react right away and give yourself time. And then they talked about talking with the person, or actually talking it out. And so that relates to what you were talking about talking about senior, but they didn't say talk with senior devotees. They were just talking about like talk with the person that is causing the frustration. But like we were saying, practicing the patient approach, or practicing that calm technique, and give yourself time and space, that it actually does create new neurons. And that when you do it over time, you actually become better at a more natural response is to be more patient and be more almost compassionate, because that's what the talk was, integrated compassion. And that over time, those more sensible responses do get more regular. So that was the first point. And then the second one was about you to steer. So before I even came into contact with the Gita or Krishna consciousness, really, I read part of the Mahabharata, and the first part I read was Yudhisthira's response to them killing Karn and finding out that it was his brother.
Yes. He keeps going in and out, and I really want to hear his point. I'm sure he'll join back again. He must be having issues, connection issues. But yeah, when he comes back in, he'll continue. But yeah, so there he is. Xavier, go ahead. Xavier? He's back.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
there you are.
I don't know why it's.
It must be the connection issue
so
where you're at.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So then that really stood out to me before any of this, and that led me to reading the Mahabharata and reading the Bhagavad Gita, because of his character, how he. You can hear me?
Xavier, you're going in and out. Xavier?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, so what he showed in his response really stood out to me, because at that time I was feeling that way, I don't know, for whatever reason. Because that was a point where it didn't show his, he wasn't really equal-headed, because he was so devastated by what they did. But it showed his righteousness, and how even when he was frustrated, what was his action? What was his actual response? And then the question was, how do we build as both the receiver of anyways, how do we build that trust and openness with devotees? How to break that block that we put up? Because some of us are more introverted than others. And
Trust is a very deep topic. I'll be very honest with you, Xavier. Trust is, we lost him again. That's a very nice question. We build trust by trusting ourselves first. He's back on. Okay, Xavier, so your question was, how do we build trust, right?
Yeah, trust and openness, both as the devotee that's, trying to have people open up, and the devotee that's trying to open up.
Very nice point.
How do we make it easier?
Very good, very nice point. I remember the same question being asked to my spiritual master many, many years ago. And his response is, in order to trust someone, you have to trust yourself first. That is the key point. If I have to, for example, I'll use a very, very lame example. Lame is the wrong word. I'll use a material example. When we meet the opposite gender, when a man and a woman meets each other, they fall in love, right? How does the man know that he can trust the other person, the woman? Or how does the woman know that she can trust the man? First is they have to trust themselves. They have to trust themselves to know, I trust myself to open up to this relationship, and I trust myself to be able to maintain the boundaries and to be able to maintain the respect, to be able to maintain whatever, to maintain the relationship. There has to be a trust within ourselves first before we can trust someone else. For example, again, this was taught by my spiritual master. In order for me to love someone, I have to love myself. I cannot love someone if I don't have love to love myself. So it all begins with us. So if I say I love my husband, or before we got married, I love this man, what love can I give him if I don't love myself? If I don't love who I am, if I do not take myself, love myself, for I am the devotee of the Lord. I'm a spirit soul. I'm a part and parcel of the Lord. This body is the Lord. This mind is the Lord. Everything belongs to the Lord. And I take good care of it. And I build that love. And then I'm able to give love. But it's very hard to say, I love this man, but I don't have love for myself. So in that same way, in order for us to trust someone, we have to trust ourselves first. Once we trust ourselves, then we will be able to trust the other person. Many times, people don't trust others is because they don't trust themselves on how they will behave and act, how they will react, how they'll make decisions, how they will view themselves and others. So first, we have to build the trust within ourselves first. Once I trust myself, for example, the very material example, someone takes, say, if me and my coworkers go out for an office lunch, for example, and office dinner, Christmas parties, they always have this in most companies. And of course, in parties, we will see beer, we'll see liquor, we'll see juice, we'll see meat, we'll see coffee, we'll see everything, right? And sometimes for some of us who come from the meat-eating background, switching to Krishna consciousness, when we see these things, we have to be so strong that we'll say, I can go into that environment because I trust myself to not fall prey, to not fall into the capture of whatever they're doing. I'll give you a very good example. I remember in 2000, I want to say 16, my office in New York had a Christmas party on that boat. What do you call that boat? Spirit cruise, spirit, something like that. New York Spirit Cruise or whatever. They rented the whole boat, and they had 80% was just meat, literally. I couldn't eat anything, actually, nothing at all. And then actually they had pasta, thank God. And 20% was just a pasta with some olive oil dressing on it and salad and Ritz crackers. I had that. I was hungry, but that's all I just had that, but still it didn't satisfy me. And then they had liquor, they had this, and then they had dance. They had a huge dance floor. And my coworkers pulled me not once, not twice, many, many times to join the dance floor, to join with them in the dance. I said no, I said no, I said no. And believe me, the temptations were there. Oh, come on, Anita, let's do. They try to push me to dance. I said, I'm not dancing. So I trust myself that if I am in that environment, I can refrain from being part of the dance floor. I can refrain from hanging out and drinking liquor with them. So do we trust ourselves that much to not fall into Maya's clutches? If we trust ourselves that much, then only can we trust another person. So it all begins with ourselves, Xavier. So once we trust ourselves, only then we can open our minds to reveal our minds to others. That is, and I'll tell you, I had that same situation. When I first joined Krishna consciousness, trust was a big issue for me. Big issue for me. But I remember going to my spiritual master and he said to me, Anasuya, do you trust yourself? You have to trust yourself before you can trust someone else. You have to love yourself before you can love someone else. Because if you don't love yourself, what is in you to give love to someone else? That means your well is empty. You don't have the love to give someone else. So it all begins with ourselves, Xavier. We have to trust ourselves first before we can trust someone. I hope that helps, Xavier, but if we can definitely this is a very good topic, and it'll be a very nice class to speak on. It'll take about an hour probably, because it requires going into a lot of other, reading and pulling out and recognizing the blocks. But the main point, one of the main points, or the main point is building trust. Is we got to trust ourselves first before we can trust someone else. You know, we got to trust ourselves first. Like another example is when you and Mandeep had to go to to go to Baltimore to pick up the boga for to deliver the boga for Rath Yatra. Why did I ask you? Why did I ask Mandeep? Because I trust and know that you both can handle the service without any hiccup. I could have asked someone else, but I trust that you both will not say, okay, Mataji, it's 11 o'clock. I have to go to work. I'm sorry, I'm dropping this ball on your head. I trust that you both won't do that. So it's a trust that I have in you that you can carry out that service wonderfully. And you both did. Excellent. Back and forth. The 3 days before and the morning off without a hiccup. And you both brought the prasadam. So I have trust. So I trust you guys in that service. So right now I know that you guys will do it without a single flaw, right? So because I had to build the trust in myself to trust the both of you. I hope that helps, Xavier. But we can definitely talk more at length on this. It's a very, very, very good topic.
Hare Krishna, yeah, I was about to say, how do we build trust with ourselves?
Yes. Yes, we got to trust ourselves first, and we will be put in situations where we will be questioned. Will I be tempted or will I be strong to fight it? That's how we build trust in ourselves. But I will try to find the lecture by Bhaktitirtha Swami on trust, and I'll send it to you via email or WhatsApp, Xavier. That's a very nice lecture on that. It really helped me. This was back in the 90s, I think, or 2000, I don't remember, but beautiful topic. But I will send you more and we can talk more about it. But it's a very, very nice topic. I like to talk topics like this because it helps us to overcome our hurdles in Krishna consciousness and move closer and do better, So thank you for bringing this up. Very, very nice question. Any other questions from devotees? Any other thoughts, any reflections, realizations? We passed the 9 o'clock hour, so I want to thank you all so much. A quick reminder, please do join us for our Bhagavad Gita circle tonight. We did not have one on Friday because many devotees were at the men's mantra retreat, and I had a last minute work deadline that I had to complete. Took me till like 10 o'clock at night. So I apologize for that. So we will continue with our Bhagavad Gita circle reading program tonight at 6 o'clock. And we are starting the 16th chapter. So actually we are already in the 16th chapter and it's beautiful. Divine. This is, you know what, Xavier, this is a very nice topic for you to be proud of, actually. It's the 16th chapter talks about the divine and the demoniac nature and how to develop it. And one of it, I think, is trust. So that's a nice one that we can talk about it too. So please do join us this evening at 6 o'clock. Until then, Vantrakrapudibhyascha, Kripa Sindhubevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful day, devotees.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Xavier.